Good evening. Welcome. Dennis is not with me tonight, and I apologize. We didn't do the show last week because Dennis wasn't feeling well, so I said I wasn't going to do the show. But Dennis is going to have surgery in about a week, so he is going to be out for a while. And to my right is a good friend, Michael Fred Hudson. He's from New London, and he has run for the city council twice, and of course he didn't win because he's Republican. And nobody in New London who's Republican really wins. The town has been run by Democrats for 50, 60 years, maybe more, and it's why the town is crap, even though they say things are getting better and better and better. However, they, for some reason, and I think I know why, the taxes are going to go down about 1.5% because there are more properties that are paying taxes or will pay taxes, and now we can finally hope save maybe a couple $100. But the mill rate still is too high. It should be maybe another 10 mills lower. This town just doesn't really know how to get things done properly, and Mike can definitely vouch for that, can't you?
Oh, absolutely.
Before we get into all the local politics that's been all over the news, I just want to say about New London with the school systems. Last week, I think it was last week, was Teachers Appreciation Week. And normally, the teachers definitely deserve appreciation, but because of this COVID-19 situation, really, they didn't get anything. They did get one thing that was sent to them, and they were sent a baseball cap with the New London schools on it, I believe it was. And you want to talk about a joke. This is a system that has been in the lower 5% of the state for years. It doesn't get any better. And tons of money keeps getting thrown at New London, and the school systems do not get better. Now they're going to be pumping in part of 168 million to get the new high school built. That's supposed to start this year. I think it was supposed to start something in May, at the end of May, but I don't think it did. And what do the teachers get for this? They get 75 different languages spoken in New London. You get a bunch of rude kids in the middle school and high school. You get a lot of good kids. Don't get me wrong. There are a lot of good kids in New London. But New London is an urban town. It's got a lot of poor people in this town who can't afford to pay for their kids. So everybody else has to pay for them, which I don't know if you agree with that. I certainly took responsibility for raising my children. I knew I could afford to have children because I worked hard. And you afford to pay your kids, didn't you?
Oh, absolutely.
You have how many?
A total of 6 boys and 1 girl.
God bless you.
That's why I'm old and decrepit, because I worked for 36 years, to take care of my family.
And served in the military.
Yep. Never received welfare, never received unemployment, because my generation, or our generation, and our host is a baby boomer, probably tail end of the baby boomers, we were taught that if you work hard, you can play hard. And it was an embarrassment, a outright embarrassment, to say you were on state aid.
Not today, is it?
Oh, not today. It's the norm. They have rap songs about it. You have multi-million-dollar rappers with multi-million-dollar contracts still going down to City Hall to get their welfare checks. How can they do that? Well, I'm dating myself because they don't get welfare checks anymore. They get debit cards.
But it's still welfare money.
Of course, it's not welfare money.
And
it's you and my tax money.
And also
it's a redistribution of wealth.
And they call it SNAP cards instead of
food
food
SNAP
assistance.
instead of food stamps.
talk about, it's amazing because with all the money that this government cannot afford to keep giving people, and they want more and more, and that's first-class socialism.
Well, Eric, let me point out a fact that most people gloss over. Remember Mr. Is it Wang or Yang, the Democratic candidate, who said he wanted to give everybody a $2,000 living wage?
Yes.
Guess what?
Where is he? He's on welfare.
No, that's what they did by default with the stimulus.
Oh, yes.
It's
And
a
there's supposed to
backdoor.
be
And
another
not
one.
everybody got the stimulus.
Well, they did set a threshold level. However, that's whatever amount of money they're getting that they didn't pay into. Everybody.
Everybody.
Including the homeless.
Including the I'm going to call them illegal aliens because that's what they are.
Right.
In California, Newsom. But yet he closed down, from what I read in the paper, he closed down 3 veterans homes because of budget cuts.
Right.
He got money for illegal aliens, but he can't take care of the veterans.
And they were thinking about doing that, I think, in New York and Connecticut. I don't know if they're going to. I hope they don't because, and they're complaining. There was something in the paper. A lady wrote a letter to the editor or something about she supports all this, and I'm thinking, what is wrong with you? She has a right. There's 5% of the population. They're the ones who are doing jobs that Americans don't want, and she fails to understand that the 5% that are doing those jobs, those migrants are legal. They came legally with green cards. All the other people, these illegals, did not come here properly, and anybody who has got any kind of morals would tell these people, go home. I don't care about your country. I really don't. You're the problem because you left your country. You didn't try to make your country better. So you come in and ruin ours.
Well, Eric, let me push back on you a little bit. It's not the illegal aliens are the real, quote-unquote, guest workers that are the problem. The problem is lazy, can I say ass?
Yes.
Lazy-ass Americans who don't want to pick the fruit.
That's right.
Who don't want to be day laborers.
Absolutely.
And it's the unions that push that issue. Listen here. If you don't want to pick, I think they were paying to harvest cabbage, they were paying $15 an hour. Well, Americans didn't want to pick cabbage for 15. However, Julio will pick it for 10. So who am I going to hire? The guy who's going to pick it for 10.
That's true.
I'm not going to blame that illegal alien because if he makes $10 an hour under the table in the United States, he's the basis of capitalism. He's making money to not only support himself and his family back home. So how can I blame that migrant worker when he's willing to work hard and play hard, yet lazy-ass Americans want to wait on quote-unquote stimulus packages?
True. No,
That's
the
the problem.
You do make a good point, and this will go back to the '60s when Lyndon Johnson, I think, created the welfare program.
Randy Tillett says your ancestors would probably disagree with that opinion.
Well, maybe.
Whose
maybe.
ancestors? Eric's ancestors?
Mine or his?
He just said your ancestors would
Everybody.
probably disagree.
Probably yours. But
Oh, isn't that racist? To just assume it was my ancestors?
I don't know.
Because when America started, the first quote unquote workers or guest workers were all indentured servants. They had to work 20 years to pay off their passage from the European countries.
well, again,
So whose ancestors are going to be pissed?
right.
The indentured servants or the slaves?
The problem goes back to Lyndon Johnson in the '60s to create
Great
welfare-
Society.
The
Yeah.
Great Society, and giving welfare money out should totally be abolished. Everybody should be forced to work. You want a living wage? Go to work. You can't do it? Then we're not going to feed you. You feed somebody for a day, they'll live for a day. You teach them how to fish, they'll learn how to feed themselves forever. That's the whole problem. Now, I've shown this to Mike many times. I'm going to hopefully, I don't know if you can see this. It's a paperback book that I've shown to many people and it's called American History in Black and White, written by David Barton, setting the record straight. Now, on the cover of the book are black individuals, gentlemen. And after Lincoln freed the slaves, it was the Democrats who prevented the blacks who were elected to Congress and the Senate from taking their seats. So my question, and I've shown this to the former head of the NAACP in New London, she read it, and she's a Democrat. Does she change? No. What is wrong with the black people today? This is my question, because you've got people, and I'm not being racist at all, because I will say the same thing about the Jews, and I can say that because I am Jewish. However, with the black people, you've got Democrats who wanted to keep you as slaves. They wouldn't give you your seats. And you've got people like Al Sharpton, who's first-class scum, along with Jesse Jackson, Louis Farrakhan, who is a first-class anti-Semite. And you've got, I'm going to have to put the name in, and you can agree with me or not, Barack Obama, who does not like Jews. But there are more Jews in New York City than there are in Israel. Why do you keep voting for people like Schumer and Cuomo and the worst mayor in the United States, Bill de Blasio, who is married to a black woman who wasted $1 billion for certain programs in New York City?
Randy Tillett says he makes a great point with the immigrants. Anna Hungerford says he's a dead ass wearing that mega hat, and he's over here talking about racism.
You know, the people who want to comment,
Trump,
that's fine.
Trump 2020.
Comment. Yeah. You can comment about me wearing any hat you want, but I'm not a racist, and I'm not the one who brought unemployment down to the lowest levels in the history, only to be reversed because of a virus. What did Barack Obama do for the black people? Absolutely nothing. He is a community organizer. He knows how to talk a really good game. He went all over the United States saying, you didn't build that. You don't deserve that money. Well, look at Barack Obama today. He's worth well over $100 million. And you're going to tell me he built all that? Give me a break.
Hey, can I respond to that person that, I don't know if they were calling you a dead ass or me a dead ass, but would they please, my name is Michael Fred Hudson, please tell the IRS I'm a dead ass so they can get off my ass.
That's right.
To pay taxes. So much for her dead ass comment.
Yeah, is she? I wonder if she's getting welfare and stuff.
Well, I don't know.
A couple of things.
But she got time on her hands to watch unlimited FM radio.
Yeah. Well, good for her. Good for her. All right. There's just so much that has gone on in the past, really, 2 weeks, and a lot of it goes around the coronavirus, and then recently, the past week, the George Floyd situation, which I think is a huge tragedy. And I have so much to talk about regarding the economy and the Democrats and China and everything. So we could probably spend the rest of the show on the George Floyd thing. There's an article in today's paper written by Robert Reich, who's from the Tribune Content Agency, which I have never even heard of. But he has said Trump's presidency is now all but over. Really? I hope you retract that when President Trump gets reelected, because anybody who votes for somebody like Joe Biden, who can't complete a sentence, who can't take any kind of credit for doing anything in his 44 years in government, along with Schumer, Pelosi, Maxine Waters, who've been there forever and ever. It's amazing that you people keep voting for the scum of the earth like this. And so he said, it's not all but over. Guess what? You're talking June. Any kind of opinion polls are not even valid right now. It's ridiculous. All the people said Hillary Clinton was going to win right up almost to the day of the to the day of the election. What happened? So let's just keep waiting and see. The economy's going back now. Here's an argument for term limits, and I brought this up last time, 2 weeks ago. In regard to the letter to the editor, revamped Constitution with term changes, I offer the following list to show why we need term limits. Senators Patrick Leahy, Democrat from Vermont, 45 years. Chuck Grassley, Republican, Iowa, 39 years. Mitch McConnell, Republican, Kentucky, 35. Richard Shelby, Republican at Alabama, 33 years. Dianne Feinstein, Democrat, California, 28 years. Congressman Don Young, Republican, Arkansas, 47 years. Jim Sensenbrenner, Republican, Wisconsin, 41 years. Hal Rogers, Republican, Kentucky, 39 years. Chris Smith, Republican, New Jersey, 39 years. Steny Hoyer, Democrat, Maryland, 37 years. Nancy Pelosi, Democrat, California, 33 years. Combined services of the Senate and the House. Pat Roberts, Republican, Kansas, 39 years. Dick Durbin, Democrat, Illinois, 37 years. Chuck Schumer, Democrat, New York, 39 years. Bernie Sanders, Democrat, Vermont, 29 years. For most of these politicians, this is the only job they ever had. Now, would you please tell me why or what's wrong with the American people for keep voting for these people? This is a good reason why we need term limits. So,
well, Eric, those are facts, and you're very correct. But it'll never change because the people that would need to make the change of the constitutional amendment are the same guys that are milking the gravy train.
That's right.
They're never going to change.
And they're not going to
Not going to do it.
Yeah, they know people want term limits, but they're not going to vote for it because they're going to take they're going
the freebies.
Yeah, well, and the lobbyists.
Oh, yeah, the lobbyists, the freebies. Listen, if you're slipping me money, quote unquote, however you're giving it to me, I want to keep you in office because you make money, I make money.
That's right.
That's the corruption, and that's why we need term limits. Remember, that's why they put term limits on the president, because if you were a popular president, you could rule forever.
That's true.
But Congress didn't want that because they lost control.
Very
Yet
true.
they complain about Trump being a tyrant. Listen, worst case scenario, Trump is only in for 8 years.
He's only been in for 3.5 years.
Well, that's what I said. But even at worst case scenario, he's in for 8 years. Then someone else has to take over.
That's right. So how can you blame Trump
You can't,
for the past 50, 60 years when he's only been in for 3.5 years?
because they're lazy. Americans are lazy.
They need somebody to blame.
That's
Absolutely.
true. Absolutely.
And Democrats are just willing sheep, brainless juice drinking people that can't hold a conversation. And I said it on my Facebook page that I know when I'm winning an argument when they start calling me an asshole or an Uncle Tom or a sellout,
They can't
because they got nothing else.
They have nothing else.
They got
to
nothing
say.
else. They
That's
can't
right.
state any facts. Look at the Congressional Black Caucus. A lot of them been there forever. Yet, how has life improved for Black Americans? You can't name it.
No, you can't. And we went through this before. And I'm glad you're calling them Black Americans because that's what you are. When are you going to learn that you are not African American? If you can tell me what country you came from, I'll call you an African American. But where were you born? Where were your parents born? Where were your grandparents born? More than likely, you're going to say the United States. And then my last question is, what country do you come from? And you have no idea. So you're not an African American. I am not a Russian American or English American or Romanian American. I am American. You all are Americans of different descent. Get it through your thick heads. That's what we are.
Well, that's why. Oh, I'm sorry. That's why you got to get rid of the hyphen. Just like when on another show, the host said, "Well, as a black man," I said, "Oh, slow your roll, slow your roll." I said, "I don't consider myself a black man. I consider myself a man. And if I gotta designate myself further than that, I'm an American." Okay.
That's right.
As soon as you call me a black man or a Latino man or an Indian American or even a white man, you've placed me in a box and you've limited all my expectations.
I wouldn't have Mike on this show with me if he and I were not friends.
Right.
And I grew up in this way. My family life is multiracial. So don't ever call me a racist, because I don't care what color you are. If you respect me, I will respect you. You start commenting or calling me names, we're going to have problems. You come after my family, we're going to have problems. So, let's get to the George Floyd situation. And you want to talk about problems? We'll talk about problems. The man did not deserve what he was given by this cop. The cop deserves to go to jail forever, period. And the family has told you to please stop the violence. That's not what Mr. Floyd wanted.
What I don't understand is when he said, I can't breathe.
Turn up your mic.
Hold
When
on.
he can't breathe.
When you can't breathe, he's like, I can't breathe. I can't breathe. That's what it said in the reports.
Right.
Why did the cop not lift up his knee?
Why did the other 3 cops not push him off?
They're
Why didn't they
scared.
go? That's what's scary about these cops. There are, what I heard, 799,000 police officers in the country. And you're going to base your problems on a few bad cops? I don't think so. So get off it, because all you protesters, the ones who are peaceful, I have no problem with. But the ones that came into these cities and created all the violence and the looting, you deserve to go to jail. And from what I also heard, 4,400 of you have been arrested. I hope you go to jail for 20 years, because that's what your crimes can deliver. 20 years in jail. You all deserve to go to jail. And if you want to, and you're not going to blame the Democrats, you're not going to blame the people, the socialists. That's not how this country was created. You want to talk about how stupid the people are, saying we want socialism, and you're telling me that, George Soros is going to give me all of this. He's funding some of this stuff. Guess what? How do you think George Soros made his money? Billions of dollars. How do you think this? Through socialism? Not a chance. Through capitalism. And now he doesn't like the way America is, because it's the greatest country in the world. And you don't like the people in this country because you think income inequality, you want your fair share. Guess what? How many of you are, like Mike said, sitting on your ass and not working? I'll bet you most of you are sitting on your ass, not going to work. And then do me a favor. The ones who are 2, 3, 4, 500 pounds, get off your ass. Go get a job. Go exercise. Take care of your health, because if you're going to be like that, you're not going to have much more left. Now back to George Floyd. The family deserves peace. Leave the other people alone. And for the protesters, the violent ones, you're burning. Somebody said, why is it always AutoZones burning? I don't know. What do they have that people keep looting from AutoZone?
Auto parts.
Well, I know that, but I know. And then Target.
You ever bought brake calipers lately?
No, I didn't. No,
They also
you're right.
burnt down a
That's
police
true.
station.
And police station. Guess what? The next time you're in trouble and you need to call a cop, if you're one of those violent protesters, if I was one of the cops and you were a violent protester, you think I want to go to your house when you call a cop and you burnt down my precinct or you burnt down your town?
They're doing it to their own neighborhoods.
Well, thank God Connecticut is doing well. It's all been peaceful protests right now.
I-84, they blocked the highway.
Right.
In Hartford, they blocked the highway. In New Haven, they blocked the highway.
And they blocked the Brooklyn Bridge.
I seen a report where his brother said rioting isn't going to bring my brother back.
That's true. So why are you people rioting? Why can't you do you ever see
A lot of these rioters...
conservatives violent protests? Never. So we know who you are. And then I also read the paper that the millennial generation's the worst generation ever that's been created. And you're blaming the baby boomers. And that we created this. You know what? Maybe that is true. My son told me that, and I told him he wasn't a millennial. He was born in 85, and to me, a millennial meant 2000. So it's maybe we gave too much to the kids.
Too easy. Yep.
Made
life
things too easy. We wanted, and that could be true.
We
right?
did. I did. My youngest son is that way.
How old's your youngest son?
He is 30 now.
Does he work?
No, he got laid off.
Oh, no, okay, but before he worked.
Yeah, he worked.
Okay.
But he has no intention of going back to work because he's making more money on unemployment.
But that's going to end. Doesn't he realize that's going to end?
It's not going to end.
It is going to end.
There is going to be stimulus package after stimulus package.
I can't believe that.
Of course it's going to happen. That's how they're going to get the votes, Eric.
Yeah, but the problem is that's going to put – we're already in debt. We don't have the money.
Eric, there's no such thing as money.
I know. I heard that too.
Once we got off the gold standard, there's no such thing as money. Everything is projected revenue.
I said to people that I'm on partial unemployment right now because of lack of work.
Right.
Well, I'm not getting anything. For the past 2 weeks, and this week will be, I'm over the limit of how many visits for patients I can do. So if I'm over 9 visits, I don't get anything. And so this will be the 3rd week I'm over the limit. I won't get anything, which, okay, that's fine with me. Because, you know what, I had to sit at home today. I didn't have any patients. I'm bored.
Mm-hmm.
I don't understand how people can sit at home eating their bonbons all day long.
But you're old school, Eric.
You're right, I'm old school.
You're old school. Can I make a statement or throw it out there?
Go ahead.
Anytime.
How many riots? What is it? Was it Beverly Hills 90210? That's right. That's the rich part of L.A.
Yeah.
When O.J. Simpson was found innocent, did the white folks riot?
Not that I remember.
Did they?
No.
Not that I remember.
No.
It was the blacks.
Yeah.
But listen here. When O.J. was found innocent,
and we know he was guilty.
thank you. You could put on a blindfold and you knew he was guilty.
Oh,
If he was innocent, why did him and the Howell guy do the 20-minute slow white Bronco chase?
Yeah.
He was guilty.
He was guilty. Yeah.
But now the white folks were upset because Nicole Simpson got murdered. And we all, to a T, most of us felt that O.J. did it. But when the verdict came back not innocent, came out not guilty,
right.
There were no riots in Beverly Hills.
That's
Wouldn't
true.
that be am I equivocating?
Not at all.
Of course not. Also, with this thing with New London, we'll bring it back home. Why was there protests in New London over this Geroge Floyd guy?
Oh,
well, there were protests all over the country.
Oh.
So.
I don't want to hear about protests all over the country.
You want to know why New London?
I want to know why New London had a protest when, in recent history, when Matthew Chu got stabbed to death by 6 black youth, there weren't any protests or riots.
can I tell you something about the protesters in New London?
Sure.
I was out on a bike, right? I'm wearing a United FM radio hat.
Mm-hmm.
Okay? I'm dressed in black, unfortunately. I don't know what that has to do with anything, but...
It makes you look slimmer.
Yeah, I am
Useless
kind of a
information.
fatso.
Yeah, useless information. There you go.
I was following the protesters to see if they were going to block the road.
Mm-hmm.
And so what if they did? They're doing it in other places.
Mm-hmm.
They started to block the road. And then they stopped. And they got out of the way of the traffic because it seemed like the traffic was going to run. In New London, you do not get in the way of traffic. In New London, they will run you over.
Because they don't care.
They
And
don't
it's
care.
a good thing.
They will run you over. But they started to block traffic, then they backed off. So I continued to follow them to see what was going on. And after following for a while, I got approached by a New London police officer telling me that I need to be careful about following the protesters because they called me, they thought I was some perv taking pictures of them.
Aren't they out in public?
They're out in public, yeah.
Then you're nothing
But
wrong.
I was accused of being a pervert because I took a couple of pictures of them.
So sad.
It's...
But that's political correctness run amok.
But why would the officer, he's like, you need to be careful. They think you're a pervert taking pictures of them or something. Just, try to, be careful. He's like, just be careful. I'm like,
but it's okay for the newspapers It's okay for the newspapers to go out and take pictures, but not
Melissa.
okay for you.
Yeah.
Melissa,
Right?
go grab my
So-
ID hanging off the door, please.
You know, it's such hypocrisy, and the people don't even in this country don't even see it.
Can I make another point real quick? I know your
Yeah.
time is running.
No, we're fine.
Also, New London, when I believe his name was John Silva, the owner of the Yellowfront package store on Ocean Avenue, there were no protests when he was robbed and shot in the back of the head.
Does that say pervert? I think. What does that say? Press.
Press.
Press. For some reason, they thought press meant pervert. I have no idea.
Well, maybe it's
Were
the
there
opposite of-
children in the crowd?
Yeah, there was kids
That's
in the crowd.
why.
There was
but
kids tagging along.
You're
That's
absolutely
why.
right, Mike. That whenever a white person gets killed, and
Matthew Chu was Asian.
Asian or something like, do you get the press that?
No.
No, it's only if it's black.
It
And
was
by the
glossed
way-
over.
Right, and this is where I'm really going to get. Oh, before I say that, I heard on the Levin show today that he put a video on this woman's sister was killed by the protesters. I think it was in Minneapolis.
I think so too.
And you didn't even hear about it. It wasn't in the paper. The news people didn't say anything about it. So that goes to Mike's example. If it's a white person or an Asian person, you don't get the kind of press
You don't get the full coverage.
you don't that black people will get. And by the way, I have one question to anybody out there. Would you please answer me one question? Why is it Black Lives Matter and not All Lives Matter?
I wonder the same thing.
Because I've said before, I don't care if you're black, you're white, you're purple, you're yellow, you're red. I don't care. All lives matter. And if you can't get this through your thick head, something is definitely wrong with you. Because for the black people out there, you've killed I don't know how many millions of your babies through abortion. It's okay to have abortions and not say anything about Black Lives Matter, but when a black grown-up is killed, Black Lives Matter. So please do me a favor, take down these stupid signs that say Black Lives Matter and put All Lives Matter, because that's the way this country should work. I hate to think that we're going to be going into another civil war based on this kind of situation with the young people against the old people. The young people will definitely lose, but I can't see, unless they're going to wait another 10, 20 years before a lot of the baby boomers are gone. This country's in definitely dire straits. Don't you agree?
Well, I agree to a certain extent, except that the baby boomers are going to outlast the generation coming up because of advances in medicine. That's one of the problems we have now in the United States, and working in the medical field, when the excuse me, when Johnson started the I just said it earlier today,
The welfare situation?
the welfare, Social Security, the Golden Society or whatever, life expectancy of the average male, we'll use white male because that was probably tracked more, was 50 years old.
Yeah.
Remember when you were a kid, your dad retired after 20 years at age 50, and if he was lucky, he lived to 70. Well,
If he was lucky.
If he was
and
lucky.
He wasn't. But that was because health problem. He was obese.
Oh, well, not only health problems, is that the advances in medical science and health care has extended our... Listen, it is not unusual for the average American, be black, white, or whatever, due to the advances of medicine, it's not uncommon to live to 90. It's not uncommon
Or
to
102.
live to 102.
That's true.
You got a lot
That's
of
true. A lot of-
COVID victims that are recovering at 103 and 105. It used to be if you're, say the word for me, octogenarian,
Yeah.
That was
That's 80.
unusual.
Well, 80
That was-
years. Yeah.
Whoa.
And my
How'd you
mom-
live so
yeah.
long?
My mom died in January. She was 92.
Well, there you go.
So it's, and
But
I
but
see
we
so
did-
many patients who were in their 80s and 90s.
Welfare and Social Security was a Ponzi scheme that worked as long as
People
the average people died at 50
Right.
or at 70.
Now
Well,
that-
because we've extended that for 30 years, we have yet to compensate the fund. Now, Reagan, I believe it was Reagan, was the first one who said, listen here, we're living longer, so you can't retire at 50 anymore. You have to retire at
67.
60,
So
67.
66.
Yeah,
You
it-
can retire at 63, but you won't get the 100%.
No,
Right.
you can retire. Actually, you can retire at 62 for us. That you won't get
Right,
the
yeah.
100%.
Right.
And then you get your quote your full retirement based
At
on
67, right?
66.
Or is it okay?
66. So that's when.
But see,
I'm not-
Reagan, well,
but I
Reagan,
can wait till
Reagan was the
70.
only one that wanted to adjust. He said, listen, people are living longer, so they have to work longer. Okay?
Yeah,
and
but-
at one time, you could put in 20 years in the military, 20 years at the post office, and then 20 years as a dog catcher. So you earned your money. Now, if you get a splinter in your index finger, you can get Social Security.
Yeah, but hey, listen to this. People that are on Social Security, they have to work to supplement.
Yes.
That's true. That's
But
true,
not
Melissa.
not if you're an excuse me, slap me behind the head because I refuse to be woke. If you're an illegal alien, you get benefits having never put
in. You should
That's
never.
not
problem.
fair.
That's right. If you never put in, you should never get out.
Nope.
Absolutely never. And I don't
Nope.
care who you are. But it's and what the government, federal government, did to teachers.
Oh, yeah.
Especially in the state of Connecticut. I know there are about 19 other states that if you worked in the private sector for 20 years, you paid into Social Security. You could say even 30 years. You put into Social Security. And then you said, I'm going to go get a new job. And
Right.
you went to school and you became a teacher. Now, after 20 years of being a teacher, you can get your teacher's pension. But you can't get Social Security.
which is unfair.
It's terribly unfair. But the government did that.
Right.
And Connecticut's following it. And the only reason I know this is my wife is a teacher. Now, as long as she keeps teaching, because she's 68, she can keep getting her Social Security. But once she finishes retiring and she gets her teacher's pension, she can't pull her Social Security anymore. Maybe she can get 20%, 25%. I don't even know about that.
You know why that is, Eric?
It's considered an asset.
The problem is what Mike just said. You can work in one job for 20 years, another job for 20 years, you double dip. Oh, our mayor in New London's doing it.
Oh, absolutely.
He's going to end up triple dipping.
Not only is your mayor doing it, your 39th district representative, Mr.
Blumenthal?
Nolan.
Oh, no. Nolan? Yeah.
Nolan is still
Nolan.
drawing a police
That's
pay.
true. Yeah.
And he's a sitting.
Why should that even
rep.
be? You know what? I'm not going to take away from them because they earned it.
No, he doesn't
But-
earn it.
Well,
He didn't
But
earn it.
I know.
The reason he's getting away with it because once again, the people who vote in the laws are not going to get rid of their benefits
Right.
package.
Well, okay.
That's plain
So-
and simple.
By the way, if you wanted to call into this station, you can call 860-262-5193.
Nope.
5193.
860-626-5193.
626. I thought it was 262. All right, so 626-5193.
860-626-5193, and I'll put it in the chat box as well.
So-
Dennis, if you're out there listening, you should call in.
He said he was going to try. So this is what Dennis, myself, Mike, because Mike has been my cohort with the TV show at Atlantic Broadband. This is how we talk all the time. And we're just common people. We're not rich, not by a long shot. And a lot of people will come up to us and agree with us.
Oh, absolutely.
But the people, I guess, like that couple of your people who have texted us comments, obviously you don't want to agree with us. That's fine. But if you ever listen to 94.9 FM, Lee Elsey,
or Gordon Vidal.
Gordon Vidal on Sundays with Christine Sinodi. A lot of what they say we agree with, and except for one person, and this guy who calls in every day, and I wondered, he's a truck driver, I think they said.
Yeah, he says he's an over-the-road truck driver, yes.
Over the road?
Yes.
And I think he makes these comments that he does against all the Republicans about, I think, just to get
A notoriety.
attention.
He trolls. He's,
Yeah,
he's a troller. He's a resident troller, and I'm like whack-a-mole. There was a movement to have me and this individual debate on the Lee Elsey show, and I explained, like I explained to Lee, if I debate this particular individual, who by the way called me the perfect slave,
That's
I
right.
would have made a
I was
perfect
gonna- I
slave.
was going to mention that.
And people came to my defense, and Lee says, "Come on, Mike, it'd be great, to be like the rumble in the jungle." I said, "You got to remember, Lee, without me, he doesn't get validation. So every week and every time he calls the show,
Every
and-
day he calls the show.
he may not mention me by name, but he tries to get me to troll and call in after him." And I told Lee, I'm not going to do it because that's the perfect scenario on why the black community doesn't advance. We're so busy tearing each other down instead of helping each other out that we'll never excel. And Malcolm X, not Malcolm X,
Martin Luther?
not Martin Luther. I put it on my Facebook page all the time. If the black man in the ghetto has to rely on the white man who is keeping him in the ghetto, he'll never have enough self-esteem to get out of the
That's,
ghetto.
well,
So if I were to attack this individual that always calls me an Uncle Tom, last time he called in, he says, well, if Mike Hudson has all the answers, how come he's not rich? And that's why I made that plea. Michael Fred Hudson, please call the IRS and get him off my ass.
there you go. That's
you,
true.
you understand what I'm saying?
Absolutely. Yeah.
He doesn't. This individual doesn't need to know my net wealth, just like you don't need to know President Trump's net wealth.
It doesn't matter.
What you need to know is he making the right decisions? And as far as my life is concerned, I live in. Eric knows where I live. I think Eric lives in the
Sixth.
what used to be the
Well, the
sixth
third.
district. Well,
Third
now
district.
it's called the third.
Right.
Where are you
the-
from, by the way? Where are you from, by?
Well,
Where-
I've been here for 36 years, but I was born in the Midwest, Kansas City, Missouri.
But you live in New London?
Oh, absolutely. Been here the last 36 years. I'm a Navy transplant.
Nice.
But what happens is, back in the day when I first got here, it was 6 districts in New London, and each counselor was had to live in the district.
Right.
Somewhere along the line, they reduced it to 3 districts. So I guess I live in the 3rd district.
You live in the 2nd district, right?
Do I live in?
In the 2nd
Oh, that's
district.
right. Yes, I live in the 2nd district.
Yeah.
Which is a pretty well-to-do neighborhood. I mean, you could
It's
throw a rock
nice.
from my house to L&M, and that's one of the reasons I bought my house at L&M is because if I ever got sick,
You're
I
right
didn't
next
want
to
to
the
pay.
hospital.
Yeah, thank you. I could fall down and crawl
roll-
to the
and roll.
hospital.
Stone's
And roll to the
throw.
hospital. That's true.
Yeah, stone's throw to the hospital.
Instead of paying those ridiculous ambulance fees.
And that's the problem. The black community. Where I bought my house, I was the only person who looked like me on my block.
Wow.
Okay, but once I was there, well, my mortgage would be paid for in about 6 more months.
Congratulations.
I'm a fixture. When I first moved
true.
there, I got pulled over by the New London police, and I because I live right off Ocean Avenue. Eric knows where I live, and so and I told this story. We had just come from the casino, and it was all green lights. Okay, and I said, "Oh man, I wish I had this luck at the casino," and I had just bought myself a Lexus, first luxury car, well, the second luxury car I ever owned, and he pulls me over, and of course it was racial profiling. But I don't call it racial profiling because when I bought my house, there were very few blacks living, would that be south of Willits Avenue?
South of the hospital.
Yes, south of the hospital. Here's my point. I respect that police officer because he was doing his job. He saw that something didn't look right because obviously they have beats, you know what I'm saying, and they're familiar.
Right.
Constable on patrol, and and I did the right thing like I was taught in the military. Yes, sir. No, sir. And then after, we do all that stuff, I said, well, can you tell me why you pulled me over? So he said, he was a younger guy. And he says, well, you ran that red light. I know I didn't run the red light. I didn't run the red light. However, when he looked at my driver's license and he saw my address was just 1 block away, he says, well, you know, his whole attitude changed. He says, you can contest the ticket, which was
What?
code speak for I'm not going to show up. So, of course, I contested the ticket, and I showed up, and he didn't show up, and they dismissed
Okay.
the ticket. But he gave me an out once he realized, oh, this guy lives around the corner.
Because he had nothing more to prove.
There you go.
That's
And now, I don't want to say it, the notoriety I get, I know most of the cops. The cops know me. Back when I campaigned, I sit
That's
out in
right.
my wheelchair with my sign.
The detectives and cops know me very well here. You know why?
Why is that?
Because I have 4 security cameras outside.
Well, that's good.
Anything
good.
happens, we had a shooting. We had a shooting that happened just outside this building. And after the shooting, knock, knock, knock on my
There you
door.
go.
They wanted to know who this. Did you?
Oh, yeah, of course I gave them the footage.
Yeah.
And that's
Any incident that happens outside our house,
Any incident, they come knocking at my
a
door.
car accident, a shooting, a fight,
But
it
riddle-
doesn't matter.
riddle me this, Batman. Why is it then, with all the security? Listen, Sam's Club. It used to be called Chucky's years ago. All these, excuse me, all these retail establishments have security cameras. Why is the City Council of New London resistant on putting up traffic cams?
They just put one up at the corner over here.
Well, that's
Coit J and Hempstead Street. Coit J Street, Hempstead, Coit.
Truman.
Truman Street and J Street, Hempstead, Coit. At this intersection here, they
oh, that's
just
5 points.
at this corner here at the
Right.
Hempstead's house, they just put a cam up across the street.
Probably because of all your footage.
Well-
But they don't have it hooked up.
Yeah, and the sad part is they want to say, "Oh, it's a privacy issue." It's not a privacy
not
issue.
anymore. Not when you've got cameras everywhere.
That's why I'm saying you got cameras everywhere. Everybody's under surveillance, and thank God you do that, because if you didn't do it, unfortunately, the lazy people, and the police kind of did it to themselves, because they label witnesses. Say the word is what? Snitches.
Oh yeah,
Oh, I got my snitch.
you're
well,
a snitch.
who? Thank you. A snitch. What about a witness? My youngest grandson was crying one day. We went to the casino, and he was awful quiet. And I said, "What's the matter?" He says, "Oh, they're giving me a hard time because I saw something happen, and they want me to tell what happened, but I don't want to be a snitch." It brought me to tears. It brought me to tears. And my wife says, "Well, why are you crying?" I said, "Because my grandson doesn't know the difference between being a witness and being an informant." And that's sad.
It's,
And that is the generation coming up. And I told him, if you witness something that's wrong, you don't be silent, which segues into my comment I want to ask you two. In my generation, I want to put a different slant on this Floyd thing. People with cameras sat there and videotape for 8 minutes.
right.
If I was still young and dumb and pushing my cruising weight at 265, I would have bum rushed the cop.
Yeah.
You
you-
understand what I'm
do-
saying? As
do you-
soon
let
as,
me
soon
ask
as
you-
I saw that the guy
but,
was being choked out
right.
and handcuffed, and the cops didn't have his gun pulled, I would have bum rushed the cop, knocked him off the guy.
Do you,
But they stood around for 8 to
8
10
minutes
minutes
and didn't do anything.
and videotaped.
and
And now,
but that's
after,
a crime. But do you? That technically
It
that
should
could be
be.
a crime.
Absolutely.
Well, does anybody remember the last episode of Seinfeld
No.
when they were on? I think it was Long Island somewhere, and the three of them, George, Elaine, and Jerry, were. I think Kramer was there too. They were all watching this guy across the street getting mugged, and they didn't do anything about it.
They didn't want to get involved.
They didn't want to get involved. Well, they were arrested.
Well, they should be.
That's what should happen to those three. Well, the three cops got
Oh, no, Oh, no.
got arrested, and
Thank you.
they lost their jobs. So please stop the violence.
Well,
There
don't-
is no reason to be violent. You want to get respect, stop the violence.
But
Plus, I'm telling Target, and AutoZone, after what happened to your stores, I would never build in that town again.
Of course not.
And everybody is complaining, well, I used to shop there. Now what am I going to shop? I have to go take a bus and get across. Guess what? Because people destroyed your neighborhood. What? They should rebuild and then it happened again? Whatever. All right, so one more thing. Let's go to the economy in the United States today. It's crap, and everybody knows it. And why is it crap? It's because our politicians closed the economy, and they didn't have to. This was done wrong. Why is it done wrong? Why, if you can open up your supermarkets, if you can open up the pharmacies, CVS, Walgreens, etc., if you can open up liquor stores, why did you have to close down the entire economy? You have to wear the 6-foot distance, you have to wear your mask. So you could have kept the economy open and the economy wouldn't have tanked like it did. Why did it happen? Again, I think it's because of government. Do I blame Trump? Absolutely not. I blame Congress and I blame the Senate. You don't blame somebody, and to the people who keep saying Trump didn't do anything, he waited too long. Or
Trump kept on saying open the states.
But he's the one who closed our borders. China's not coming into this country, and we're going to stop and closed our borders. They didn't want but Fauci said no, it's not going to come here. Cuomo said he was fine with it. All the people who were running the states and the cities, they were fine with it. But when things get tough, and we didn't have enough of the personal protective equipment, why? Because we're so reliant on China that people will not. We've talked about this before, about where everybody wants to buy something less expensive than another item that's a little bit more expensive. Well, when it comes to be more than, if you can buy a mask online for $6 and somebody else is charging $9, they want to get the $6 one. I don't blame that. But what's that called? Greed. Well, Ocean State Job Lot in Rhode Island and Connecticut, and BJ's, unfortunately, they had boxes of masks, 50 masks for $40.
Oh.
And I did buy.
Those masks ain't worth like 10 cents a piece.
It's fine. You're right. It's not worth 10 cents. But go online and see the people who are charging $20 and $30 for a mask. So, which I would never do anyway. And I can get masks from the visiting nurses.
Someone got me, because I made a post on Facebook that I think this mask situation's out of control. And the masks don't, let me tell you something.
They don't work.
They don't work. The virus, the coronavirus is 0.2 microns or 0.1 microns in size. These masks that we're wearing do not protect us from any virus that is 0.1 or 0.2 or 0.5 microns in size. You need a respirator that's rated for viruses. You see these guys wearing these full suits and respirators in these scientific
hazmat suits
with these big fat full face respirators. They're working around viruses. You think your little face mask is going to stop you from getting the virus? No.
It's a placebo.
Yes.
And it's unfortunately.
And I've said this 100 times. It's not going to stop anything.
It's here to stay, unfortunately. But the other thing that they said now is that you're more apt to get the virus being cooped up inside than you are outside.
And that's been verified over and over again.
I know.
More deaths have been attributed to shelter in place than being out in the open air.
Well, look what Cuomo did.
Yep.
And then the governor of New Jersey, and then I think it was Pennsylvania too. They took elderly people who were ill and threw them into
nursing homes.
homes. And what did they do? They protected themselves by not being that you cannot sue the nursing homes.
Right.
And well, why would anybody keep voting for? Because the man Cuomo knows how to talk nicely.
Wow.
Bill de Blasio is an ass. He's a first-class idiot.
He's
and
a
the
joke.
people in New York keep voting for people like this. Rudy Giuliani really had that city down. But I heard that de Blasio was very happy because of the mayor of the Minneapolis and the governor, the way things are going in that state, that they're the worst now also. But let's get back to China. Please, if you can. I didn't have any choice because there were no other boxes of masks that were being sold. 50 masks for $40. And I had a patient who wanted a box, and I even bought a box, even though I can get them free from my work. But it said made in China. I didn't have a choice. There are other companies. This is the reason why we need to bring back manufacturing to the United States. And I have a magazine, the AMAC magazine, and its title is China's Chokehold on U.S. Medicine. It's not just the U.S. medicine. China is buying up businesses in the United States, people. Where is your choice to keep American? Go look and see where the product is made. Lots of times you won't know. Like Smithfield Foods was an American company. It was bought up by China for like $1.5 billion or something like that. Well, can you blame the person selling the company so he can be that kind of rich? No.
Wasn't Stanley Tools the same way?
The what?
The Stanley Tools in New Britain.
In New Britain, they owned by China now?
I thought they went overseas.
I don't know. What about Craftsman? I think Craftsman stayed in the United States.
Okay, can I interject real quick? You know what the biggest sacrilege is?
What?
Budweiser is no longer owned by an American company.
I know. It's owned by what?
It's owned by a German company.
A German company, yeah.
A brewery. I guess that's not as bad.
No, it's not as bad. But China is buying up property in the United States.
Yes.
But we can't buy property in China.
Nope.
The hypocrisy of this all. Would you stop? Please stop buying Chinese products. Look for other things. Okay, you have to pay a couple of dollars more. You're getting it for free anyway from the government. So spend it on American goods. And look hard, because there are plenty of different choices. You don't have to buy one product if it says to save the $2 or whatever it is. But look at the bottom. Lots of times it won't say made in China. There are products that are produced here, sent to China to get processed and then sent back. So,
well, I think they stopped putting made in China. What the Federal Trade Commission did was they changed the verbiage to say, you guys help me out, consumer content, like your car. Your car, someplace there's a label on your car that details how much of the content
of that
the
car is made
in America or assembled in America, et cetera, et cetera.
Yeah, but I don't think there's any car company today that's 100% American. I mean, we don't make TVs. That was always GE was always made. GE sold out a portion of their company to China. This is getting
closer to home. The only company that makes we call them sneakers, but tennis shoes when I was a child.
Oh, New Balance.
New Balance. You're telling me that there is no company in the United States that can make sneakers?
Well,
Walmart makes sneakers.
Yeah, but Walmart gets them from.
We sell them.
They sell.
We don't
they
make
don't make them. Walmart makes nothing.
Yeah, Walmart is just a middleman.
Yeah, the one product, toothpaste, Sheffield Labs in New London.
Sheffield Tubes. Yep.
Wait a minute. Look at this. Look at this shoe. We got this from Walmart.
But where's it made?
But it's not made at Walmart.
I don't know,
it's sold by Walmart.
And Walmart used, like we said before, back in the 80s.
Made in America.
Everything was made in America. Now,
absolutely,
very little is made in America.
Where's this made? Hold on a minute.
China.
Take a deep dive.
Made in Cambodia.
Cambodia.
There you go.
Cambodia.
Yep.
Well, that's better than China. I mean, there's even look what's happening in Hong Kong. China's trying to break
crack
that
down.
treaty
Oh, yeah.
that for 50 years, and they're trying to take over Hong Kong. I hope everybody goes against the communist Chinese. You got to remember, 1.6 billion Chinese, or most of them want to be free, but you've got a small percentage that, and I have to. It sounds big, like maybe 90 million people. Same thing with the Muslims. 1.3 billion Muslims, and 90 million of them are terrorists, and the others want to live in peace. Well, because of these 90 million Muslims, the rest are getting a bad deal. So, please think about what you're doing from now on. All right, I just noticed the time, and I know Keith keeps telling me we can go over, but
You can.
You
There's
can.
no limit.
There's no limit.
I know
It's however long
I know,
you
but
want to
this
go.
This is all about you right now.
Well,
you and him.
I appreciate that.
Well, if it's about us, bring
all
up
about
Hong Kong.
you.
Bring
The
what?
fear of communist China about Hong Kong is that, and this speaks to the ignorance of the American school system. People think that they keep forgetting that Taiwan is the Republic of China.
Yep.
Okay, they
think
just
that.
don't connect the dots.
No, well, it's
and
not.
that's what they don't want to happen to Hong Kong.
Right.
Hong Kong has been like Taiwan, and the fact that Taiwan exists independent of mainland China, and Hong Kong it can exist independent of mainland China, that is what the Chinese communists fear. Okay?
Oh, they've been trying to take over
been
Taiwan
ch-
for a long time,
but
too.
it's never
no,
going to
I know
happen
that.
because of
Well,
the mutual defense contract, our treaty that we have with Taiwan. That's the same thing with the Hong Kong and the American people. I use the word stupid because we're stupid. When Chinese nationalists who only know how to sing and recite the Pledge of Allegiance fly American flags,
Yeah.
yet you have the brain-dead, juice-drinking Democratic Liberal Party people waving communist flags.
Do you remember the McCarthy?
Was that
era?
What
was that
about Antifa?
Do you remember?
Antifa, yeah.
What
do you-
about was it Antifa?
Yeah.
Am I saying it right? Antifa.
Yes.
Antifa.
Yeah, you
They've
are.
been
That-
designated as a
as a
terrorist
terrorist
organization.
Way overdue.
Way overdue. But do you remember
That
the
should have been done a
Yeah.
long time ago.
Do you remember the McCarthy era?
Oh, absolutely.
I do.
And there's a church.
The Red Scare, we called it.
There's a church right here down the road on J Street in New London, Connecticut, that has the Antifa home base.
Really.
Yes.
That way, I'll tell you later off the air.
Oh gosh.
But listen, New London, that swings back to New London. All politics are local. New London is a town full of wannabes. And having been in the military, traveled all over the world, I've been to places where people's daily struggle is to look for water. Not clean water.
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 They'll pull it out of a puddle if they have to.
Thank you.
That's right.
You know, it's like elephants drinking out of a mud pond. And people in the United States are so spoiled because they can go to we have outside water fountains that you don't have to pay for water.
Because it's easier.
Or you can always take a
Absolutely.
shower at the whale's tail.
That's true too.
That's a point.
I'm gonna look right at the camera.
They shut it off because the homeless were taking showers.
That's
They shut it off because people were
There
pooping
is-
in the fountain. I remember that article.
yeah. I remember that too.
There is something wrong. I forget the name of the company who does our water here in New London.
Veolia.
Veolia.
There is something wrong. I don't know if it's just my location, but
Oh,
when
yeah,
I-
it tastes like chlorine.
all I smell in my water is pond water and chlorine.
Yep.
It smells like chlorinated pond water here in New London, Connecticut.
And we're
I don't
supposed
know
to
what's
have-
wrong with our
We're
water.
supposed to have some of the best water in this area. in New London,
Well,
so.
The best water I've ever had is in Norwich. I don't know what it is about Norwich, what they do with their water.
Filter it.
And some people say Notch. So if you're not understanding me, it's Notch, Norwich. The people from Norwich say, welcome
No
to,
itch.
I'm from Notch.
Because it's filtered.
I don't know what they do, but in New London, Connecticut, the water tastes like over-chlorinated pond water.
Well,
And I wish they would do something about it.
I can give you the explanation behind that.
What's that?
The reason that the New London water is rated higher but tastes worse is the fact that we have an excellent water source. Okay, we do have an excellent water source, and we sell water to other towns.
right.
But the infrastructure or the water pipes, the mains,
Yep.
haven't been changed in almost 150 years.
So they're
There are
dinosaurs.
sti- Yes, they're dinosaurs.
They got a lot of leaks.
They got, well, they just, was it 2 years ago? They had the big leak in Bakes Woods coming because the lake, what is it, the pond? Mm-hmm. And they had the big, it was like thousands and hundreds of thousands of gallons of water that somebody just happened to be walking along Bates Woods and said, hey, where'd this lake come from?
You're right.
But they fixed that leak, but they didn't replace the pipeline coming down Bank Street.
Oh, you're talking about. Oh, yeah. Well, all that.
Yeah, all
You know
all
what?
our infrastructure
The best-
needs to be
the
replaced.
best
But
thing
yet
you
they'll
need to do-
they'll dig up all our streets for a new cable company to come in.
Yes.
They won't dig up the streets.
No, not for
They
fresh
won't dig
water.
up the streets for our water infrastructure, but God forbid we need cable TV. You want to watch your NASCAR, watch your football? That's more important than your fresh water.
We can't even put a cell tower at Ocean Beach to get a decent cell.
Oh, let me
signal.
tell you something about
So-
Ocean Beach. I was down there. What are we going on, Melissa? 3 years now?
4.
4 years ago, I was at Ocean Beach. Okay?
No, you did that like 6 years ago.
See this right here?
That was 6 years ago.
What is that?
This is a ham radio.
Okay.
Okay? Thank God I had this radio. I was visiting from Torrington, Connecticut. I dialed 911 on my cell phone. What did I get?
Long Island.
No signal.
Right.
Yeah.
No signal. Okay, at Ocean Beach, because apparently a bird's nest is more important than somebody calling 911.
Well, it was also because Waterford residents didn't want the cell tower.
Right.
They
And
they
I
didn't
said-
like
This-
the aesthetic
this cell
of the
phone-
cell tower.
Right. You can-
This cell
can make
phone
it.
was useless.
The thing
See this
is,
right here? Useless. Cell phone.
It's
Useless.
down. Yeah.
Yep. It's
Okay.
still that way.
It's still that way.
Okay? Still, yeah. Well, I was out in the water today. The
Oh.
cell phone service was great. I call
That's from the-
911.
That's from Long Island. You were pinging off Long Island.
I call 911 and I get no signal.
Yep.
So I'm like, oh shit.
So,
There is a 12-year-old girl out in a canoe. You might have heard about it.
Mm-hmm.
A 12-year-old girl out in a canoe coming out of All Wife's Cove.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay, I'm on a pair of binoculars on the beach watching, and I see this girl. We got 20-knot winds coming out of the north. We got white caps.
Right. 2 foot
And
12.
I'm watching her paddle the canoe. Paddle, paddle, paddle. She's trying to turn that canoe around. She also has a dog.
Oh wow.
She had a dog in the canoe. And I'm like, it's March. The water is like 40 degrees.
Yeah.
She's dead. She's gonna flip that canoe. She got blown all the way out to Ledge Lighthouse.
Oh
When was
wow.
it? This was
By
in March?
the time I picked up my radio, let me show you real quick here. 156.800.
Coast Guard.
That's the Coast Guard frequency. I know the frequency by heart. So after dialing 911 and being told I don't have a signal to talk to 911, I panicked. I ran to the car, grabbed my radio, ran back to the beach, and I keyed up. And I said, I'm not actually going to key up now because
Right.
they'd hear me, but I'd
Sure.
say, Mayday, 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 Sector Long Island Sound. This is Kilo Bravo 1, Romeo Bravo, India, Ocean Beach, New London, Connecticut. Making observation of a 17-foot canoe or 19-foot canoe, aluminum with 2 passengers, 1 canine, 1 female, in distress. Over. 156.8. Thank God I remembered that frequency.
Mm-hmm.
They came back to me on the radio. They answered. At that point, I knew that her life was saved.
That's a good thing.
Good to hear. It's good.
And a boat coming in, the John H.
Yeah,
The John H. was coming in and heard my call to the Coast Guard and intervened, and was able to throw her a life ring.
Yep.
Oh, ring.
They threw her a life ring and held on to her until the Coast Guard could show up.
That's a good thing.
In freezing waters.
The dog swam to a beach where I was able to after hearing that the Coast Guard helicopter couldn't get down to rescue the dog because of the rotor. You know what rotor is, right?
Oh, the prop wash.
The wind.
Right,
the
yeah.
wind was too
The
rough for them
downforce.
to get
Right.
down to the water to rescue the dog. So I decided to go beach surfing, and eventually found the dog at Lawrence Memorial Beach.
Oh, wow. That's a long way.
And let me tell you something. This is a full-size German Shepherd. And he ran up to one of the gates where the beach meets the sidewalk.
Mm-hmm.
And I grabbed him by the leash, and I said, "Hey there, guy, how you doing? I'm just here to get you back to your family." I was able to grab onto his leash, and I called the Coast Guard back on the radio. I said, "United States Coast Guard, this is Kilo Bravo 1, Romeo Bravo India, KB1 RBI." I says, "I have the dog." I say again, I have the dog. When I heard that Coast Guard guy come back to me, there was joy in his voice. There was actual joy in his voice.
Well, I'm sure the girl was heartbroken that she didn't have her dog.
Right? When the Coast Guard called the father of the daughter, and he was at the hospital, and told him that I had the dog down at at Lawrence Memorial Beach. When that vehicle pulled up, that dog started freaking out. And to hand a leash to that guy, to say, "Here's your dog," was a moment I will never forget my entire life. So, I mean...
Well, kudos to you, because that's how my world used to be.
But if I wasn't a ham radio operator, if I was someone depending on a cell phone and didn't have this...
Right.
That girl would be dead, and the dog would be lost.
Wow.
So, you know what? Put a goddamn cell phone tower up at Ocean Beach, please, for the love of God.
Well, and we've been
Make a
saying
petition.
That. We've been saying that
We've
for
been
years,
saying
too.
that forever.
Getting back to water, instead of paying $2-3 a bottle for water, why don't you just buy a filter, a pitcher with a filter, and do what I do? We fill it up, and it filters everything. You don't have to pay all that money for water.
It's the same price as a bottle of water.
It's ridiculous.
Because we as Americans are lazy.
That's right.
And heaven forbid
And we're-
we have to change the
Yeah.
filter.
And the other thing, we're not, as Americans anymore, we're not teaching history.
No, we don't teach history. Nope.
And that's why we have the problems we have today. History is bound to repeat itself because nobody is learning.
Gina Deborah Carter says, "Hi, Eric."
Hi, Gina. Glad you're watching. But now we are going to... I'm going to sign off now. It's almost 15 minutes past what I normally do, and we
So?
we
It's
normally
my
get...
fault.
I know. We normally get called at the radios, at the TV station, because we can only go 55 minutes. But I appreciate Keith letting me do this. We'll come back next week. We will have more, I hope. Keith is going to follow this because he lets us know this is on Facebook, then it can go onto YouTube. And then we find out if people are actually listening or they don't want to listen or at all, anything like that. But thank you very much, Mike. Thank you for coming on. I'm
Thank
going to
you
have
for
you
inviting
again.
me.
You have to come back.
We'll get you back. And Keith and Melissa, thank you again. So until next week,
You're welcome.
take care.